Hello, and welcome all to the recap of round 6 of the FIDE Candidates 2024. I'm here with you, Grandmaster Nitzan Steinberg, and we will see these games of this tournament. It will be very exciting, and for your asking questions, you probably ask, why do you see stock, right? Trends like stocks, up and downs. So in the next videos, you will see some hints about my life, about my hobbies, about things that I'm doing. So one of these are trading and investment, sorry, of the very big companies in the world like Nvidia, Tesla, S&P, if you know. So many things that I'm doing in the trading. Something very small to know about me, and you will, like you will know me better and better in each video. So let's start in this round 6 of the FIDE Candidates Tournament, and let's start with a game of Praggnanandhaa against Abasov. So d4, d5, knight e3, knight f6, c4, e6, and knight c3. Prague is playing and c5. Abasov is playing more than, like equalize move. For example, after c takes d5, knight takes d5, e4, knight takes e3, b takes e3, c takes d4, takes, bishop before check, take, and castle. And like the best players here know how to equalize the position. It's not so easy, of course, but with a lot of prep here and variations, Abasov should be okay. And because of this, I think Prague is played the move e3, knight c6. As you can see, everything is 100%, like copy. So a3 was played, a6, and b3. b3, I think this is something new from Prague. C takes d4, e takes d4. He's not taking with the knight, and he claims that he has, like more pawns in the queen side, and maybe he will develop some attack here, something like c5, b4, rook b1, a4, b5. This is the idea. So bishop e7 and c5, like we understand, wants to push the pawns, and b6 was played, I think very clever by Abasov. He wants to attack this very strong pawn on c5, and for example, after b4 just takes, after d takes, I think just knight e4, and maybe bishop f6. Also makes sense to play something like queen c7, bishop b7, rook d8, and maybe e4, e5, d4, e4 with a very good initiative for black. So c takes b6, I think strong move by Prague. Just taking the pawn. The d4 pawn will be weak a little bit, but maybe he will be a powerful. So queen takes b6 and b4. Also here you can see here 2 pawns against one weak pawn on a6, and maybe here the point to play knight a4, knight c5, bishop e3, bishop d3, rook c1, knight e5, knight e5, and a lot of good moves in the future for Prague. So knight e4 was played, knight a4, like we saw, queen b8, bishop e2. I'm not sure why not to play the move bishop d3, for example. Just make a more than good. Bishop f6, for example, bishop e3, rook c1, knight c5, everything is fine. So bishop e2 was played by Prague, castle, bishop f6, and now Prague is playing a very strong move, I think, bishop e3. He wants not to put this bishop here on b2, because on b2 this will be a weak bishop against very strong bishop here. But on e3 you will do this job to defend this pawn on d4, and like in the next future maybe rook c1, and somehow to put the bishop on f4, e5, and the bishop on e3 will have more than good future. So bishop e3 was played, knight e7, knight c5, knight c3. White is giving up the two bishops for Abasov, and knight f5, and now rook a b1. Prague just wants to develop these two rooks on b1, c1, and to push a4, b5, and b6, and this pawn will be promoted. Like this knight is so strong, is helping everything here. So rook a b1 was very clever, I think. And now the question is, what we will understand after the move knight e3, for example. So I think after knight takes e3, just queen takes, and now we can learn from this position, because these two knights in this close position are very strong against these very bad bishops here on f8, on f6, sorry, and on c8, um, and white will play rook fc1, for example h3, knight e5, a4, b5, and just white is very strong, and the black pieces are not developed at all, so it makes sense not to play such move like knight takes e3. This good knight against bad bishop knight takes e3 is not so good. So e5 was played by Abasov, and the point is just to open this bishop, and maybe to have some threats, like to open this the position with these two bishops, rook e8, maybe rook a7, rook e7, something like this. So d takes e5, bishop takes e5, and rook fd1. Very logical, wants to take this weak pawn on d5. d4 was played, and now Prague decided to play the move bishop g5. Another option was to play bishop takes d4, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop h2, king h1, for example bishop f4, and this is interesting position because like these bishops are strong, yeah, of course, the position is more than open than before, but these two knights are so strong. Knight c6, knight e7, maybe queen f3, like rook d5 there, rook e1, d1. The position is open, but these two knights are quite good position, right? So it's really interesting to evaluate this position. But Prague played the move bishop g5, bishop d6, and g4. This was his idea, just to remove this knight from f5 and take the pawn on d4 with maybe the rook, maybe the knight. So h6 was played by Abasov. Strong move, I think. Just want to move this bishop. You can see here that the knight cannot jump anywhere. Knight e7 is not good because just taking the knight, rook e8, and bishop d6, and of course white is winning. And here knight h6 also, of course, very bad. Just take the knight, and g takes h6 and h3, and this pawn will fall very soon. So white is just winning. So h6 was played by Abasov. Queen e4, takes. I think here also another option was to play bishop d2, knight e7 now, and something like h3. But in this position after rook a7, for example, knight takes d4, rook d8, black is a little bit more, like he's playing a little bit, right? Bishop b7, or maybe something like, like maybe queen b6, knight g6, um, rook a7, bishop b7, knight h4, knight f4, some threats. Of course, white has a pawn up, white is clearly better, but the game is not over, and there is some interesting threats for black, and like plans to get some initiative and development here. So Prague is playing the move queen e4, take on g5, take on f5, rook a7, very logical move. The rook is not working on a8. He's coming into the game on e7 and developing this rook. Rook takes d4, and g4 was played by Abasov. The point is that queen cannot take on g4 because of bishop takes c5, and now the b1 rook is under attack. So g4 was played. I think also rook e7 makes a lot of sense, just to develop the rook, to bring the rook in good position. For example, queen d3 or queen d5, I think just take, maybe rook f8, and like black will develop, and it's not so easy to understand how white will win this position, because the king is not safe on g1, and this king is much more safer. So g4 was played, and now knight g5. Yeah, like we saw, queen g4 was a blunder. So knight g5, bishop takes h2, king g2, and queen e5 wants to remove these queens because of this idea of f6 and checkmate, or maybe queen g4, queen h5 and checkmate. So Queen e5 makes a lot of sense. Rook d5, take, and bishop b8. You can see these two bishops are very bad position, but yeah, the game is not over. f6 was played by Pragg. The point is very, very nice because of g takes f6, just losing the game after knight takes f6, king g7, and knight ce4. Rook g5 is a threat, and rook h1, and the game is just over. Okay, so bishop f4 was played, just a prophylactic move. Don't want let the rook on d5 bring into the g5. So rook d1 was played. Also rook h1. I think very logical move, just to bring this rook and um, to threat some checkmates here. But Pragg is playing rook d1. In these 32 moves, Pragg has only 12 minutes, of course, and you know, in this tournament there is no increment until move 40, about the seconds. Each move that you are playing, you don't get an increment time. So Pragg has only 12 moves for 12 minutes for 8 moves, so it's not something easy to handle. Rook c7, rook d4, rook c6, knight d6, g5, takes, and rook d8, takes, king h7, and rook a8. And it seems in this position that it's really, really bad for black, because white will take the pawn on a6, the 2 pawns a and b will run away, and the game will over very soon. But rook f6 was the mistake, because, for example, rook d6 was much more stronger, because rook takes a6, rook d2, and now g3, g4, and some threats here, bishop e3 maybe, and it's not so easy to understand how white will win it, because I'm not sure he's so fast as we were thinking in this position. And also the king will come to g6. This pawn will not run anywhere. Black will took it, okay? So rook f6 was a mistake. I think Abasov played because the time travel here. Rook takes a6, rook f5, knight d7, very strong move. King g7 and just rook a5. And this rook just cannot go anywhere. So white handle the pressure and will remove these both of the rooks from the board, and it will be, of course, a game over. Let's see how it happens. So king g6, a4, very strong move, because rook takes f5, for example, king takes, and the king will come very fast to the pawns. But a4 the best move, because the rook, the exchange of the rooks are not going anywhere. So g3 was played, takes, a5, g takes, a6, and the game is just over. After bishop b3, for example, knight c5, and white will promote the queen, and Pragg is achieved the first win of the round. Unbelievable performance by Pragg. In the opening, he took the, like the more than optimistic variation. He played with all the pieces, with two knights. Very interesting game by Pragg, and he managed to win Abasov, the last ranked. But Abasov is very strong and he can beat anyone. And he took the fourth place, I think, in the World Cup, after Magnus, Caruana, and Pragg, of course. So let's move to the second game of this round. Nepomniachtchi with white pieces against Fabiano Caruana. Let's see it. So e4, e5, 93, 96, 93, knight f6, the Scotch variation into the 4-knight game. So d4, e takes, knight takes, bishop b4. As we already know, knight takes c6, b takes c6, bishop d3, d5. Also very known position. After e takes d5, c takes, castle, bishop g5, c6, queen f3, h6, take. It's very equal endgame to play. Knight e2, knight g3, and I think a lot of games were played in this position, and of course draw. But Fabiano Caruana is playing the move bishop. He played the move castle and castle. So in this position, after castling, there was an option to play d takes c6, but bishop g4, f3, rook e8, king f1, and just bishop f5. For example, bishop f5 is just bad. After queen d1, knight d1, rook e1, king f2 and rook h1, and the game is just over. Black is just exchange up, and the pieces are very bad. So yeah, after it, he played the move castle with the white pieces. Also, another option was in this. Oh, sorry, in this position. After king f1, also bishop e6 is quite strong because this king is very weak in the center, and like the rooks are not connected, and black has a lot of initiative here. So he played the move castle. Bishop g4 was played by Fabiano, f3 and bishop h5. And now Jan is playing the move bishop g5. Instead of it, there was an option to play d takes c6, but queen d4 check, king h1, bishop c3, sorry, takes, bishop g5, and just queen takes c6. The next move will be bishop g6, rook f8, rook a8, and black is totally fine here. There is nothing to worry about. So Yanni playing the move bishop d5, c takes d5, bishop f6, queen takes, knight takes d5. In this position, of course, queen d4 is not working after king h1, queen d5, just bishop h7, and white is just winning a queen. So Fabiano is playing the move queen b2. Also, another option was to play bishop c5. For example, here, bishop c5, king h1, and queen b2. But we will see this was what in the game. Rook b1, bishop c5, king h1, queen e5, rook e1, of course, like we already know, queen d5 is just losing a queen. So queen d6 was played, and just knight e7, king h8, and queen e2. And okay, knight f5 also was an opportunity to play, but queen f6, rook b5, for example. I think bishop f2, rook f1, c6, and black seems to be okay. After rook a5, bishop b6, so black is fine here. But queen e2 was played by white. For example, after rook e8, there was like this option for black, but I think queen e4, this is the move, g6, and queen h4 maybe. Also this queen e5, also a move, takes. I think bishop takes e7, just rook b1, bishop d7, bishop d6, sorry, rook e2, something like this, take, and g4. And okay, it seems to be a draw because bishop takes, f takes. Okay, white will survive it, right? So queen e2, rook a8, I think it was more than logical to play. Also g4 maybe, it's a move here, right? Because bishop g6 is not good because of knight takes, h takes, take, and here I think just rook bb8, yeah, and after king h6, h4, oh sorry, h4, and it's game over. Rook h8 will be a checkmate. So yeah, rook a8 after g4, also opportunity maybe to play something like queen f6, and with the next move of rook takes e7. Yeah, but now maybe queen g2, maybe takes on here, and queen g2. White needs to survive it, yeah, but of course black is pressing here. So bishop g6 was played by Fabiano. He wanted the draw, takes, queen e5, and just exchanging all the pieces on the board. Here also this is a dead draw here, but Yanni Nepomniachtchi a little bit played with Fabiano. I don't know why, but he started to play here, and of course remove these rooks out of the board and take on a4. And of course dead draw here in this round by Yanni Nepomniachtchi against Fabiano Caruana. Yeah, so Yanni Nepomniachtchi is leading with 4 out of 6. Let's see the third game of this round. Third game, unbelievable game by Gukesh, our Indian youngest player in this tournament, against Nakamura. e4, c5, knight f3, g6, and Hikaru let Gukesh playing the moves d4 here, c takes, knight takes, and something like this: c4, knight c6, bishop e3, knight f6, knight c3. This is the Marutze variation. There is a lot of moves here, for example d6, also knight g4, for example take, queen d1, knight e6, rook c1, queen a5, bishop e2. I had some game in Gibraltar, I think few years ago, on this position. Also here after this one, also d6 was played, bishop e2, castle, bishop d7. A lot of theory, a lot of games. If you would like, you can see it. I think knight c2 is one of the best move here solutions by white, but yeah, a lot of things to learn here in the Marze. But Gukesh is playing the move c3 with white. He wants to put this pawn on d4 with strength. So d5 was played by Icaro, e5, and now, as I remember in my variations, in my analysis, a6 is the best move here. But Icaro is playing the move bishop g4. The main idea of a6 is not giving up the opportunity to play bishop b5 and to exchange this bishop on c6, because the bishop on f1 is not doing so strong work in these such like positions. So white wanted to remove it. But Icaro is playing the move bishop g4, bishop b5, as we understand, knight c6, and in this position I'm not sure why to take on c6 immediately. You can also play something like d4, or maybe d3, or maybe h3, or maybe castle, but I think Gukesh didn't want to let Icaro playing the move queen b6, and after take on c6 we will take with the queen, so Gukesh is taking the pawn, the knight on c6 immediately. After b takes e6, there opportunity to play d4 here, d3, but Gukesh decided to play the move castle. Like 15 minutes he gives away. So I am not sure this was in his prep, because c4, very strong move by Nakamura, and in this position I'm not sure that white has something to like to attack in this position, because not only attack, I'm not sure there is something to claim the advantage, because these pieces are very weak and you wanted to play d3 or b3 to develop your pieces. So these double pawns will not be a double pawns very soon. After d3 takes, and now a very strong move by Caruana Nakamura is understanding that this bishop on g4 is not doing great job, and the next move with white will be knight d4, of course, and just remain this bishop very bad in this g4 square, not doing nothing. So Icaro is just understanding that the bishop is lower price than this knight, and he just exchanges it. Take, bishop g7, queen e2, queen c7, rook e1. Until now, this pawn on e5 is under attack, so you're playing for defending. e6, and now black just wants to develop knight e7, c5, knight c6, and this weak pawn on e5. Also, knight e5 will be some ideas by black. b4, very strong move by Gukesh. 1 second, I will take some glass of water. b4 was to bring the knight to c5, also to make some space for him, maybe to play in the future bishop e3, bishop c5 after f4, and defend his pawn on e5. So b4, it seems that is a very strong move. Also, not giving up the opportunity to play c5 because of queen b5, knight e7, knight d2, and knight c8. And now I think was a little bit inaccurate move by Gukesh. I think here after knight c8, black wants to play a5, knight b6, and in this position I think a4 was much stronger than c4, like Gukesh played. A4, the idea is just to play a5, and after this maybe c4, because this knight on c8 will not do nothing. And after a5, in this position, bishop e3 is very strong here, because it cannot give the opportunity to castle. For example, after castling, just b takes a5, rook d8, I don't know, knight b3, and this pawn is strong, and white has a pawn up until now. So I'm not sure how can handle by black. So c4 was played by Gukesh. I'm not sure it is the best move here. We saw a4 was a little bit better. Castle, bishop b2, a5, just improving this rook, giving him work to do. a3, take on a1, take on c4, just bringing the knight into the center on b6. Black is totally fine position. This bishop is a little bit stronger than this bishop on b2. The rook will come. Of course, this knight will jump to d5, and this pawn on b4 is weak. So just take the b6 knight, take, bishop c3, queen b5, queen e4, a little bit play, like king g2, c1, some moves, h4, bishop f8, and the game will be a draw very soon after taking everything. Bishop c5, take, king g7, and it's a dead draw. 4 pawns against 4 pawns and a rook. Of course, rook for both sides, and the draw agreed. Gukesh with 4 out of 6, and Hikaru Nakamura with 3 out of 6 with 50%. Let's see how it gone in the next rounds. So we're moving to the game of this round. Vidit with the white pieces against Firouza. So as you remember, Vidit lost 2 games in a row. As I remember, I'm not sure that I'm right, but I think so. So he's coming back into this game against Alireza. Let's see what happened. Vidit with white pieces. So e4, c5, 93, d4, yeah, take, knight c6 was played. So this is a rouser. White has the option to play bishop g5, for example, e6, queen d2. There are a lot of variations. For example, a6, castle, h6, takes, bishop f4, d4, d5, sorry, queen e3, and a lot of variation. I can admit that I like this position for white. Also, one opportunity after castle to play bishop d7. Very modern line here. Another thing here to play bishop e7, castle long, castle short castle, f4, takes, queen a5, bishop c4, bishop d7, e5, take, bishop c6. Of course, e takes f6 is just losing the game after queen takes g5. And now bishop d2, knight d7, knight d5, queen c5, takes, rook h1, and a very interesting position to play with both sides, as I remember for a lot of times that I played also in my childhood. So queen b6 after bishop c4, also a very modern move. I think I also had like game between me against Jules Moussard in a European Chess Championship teams. I played with Beersheva team, and he played with the French team. So I played with the black pieces, and the game was finished by a draw. But it seems that I had some good variations and good opportunity to get a win. But queen b6, knight b3, e6, bishop f4. I think in this position I played the move knight e5. As I remember, bishop e2 and something like a6 or bishop d7. I think I played a6 in this position, but really I'm not sure. So let's see, queen d8 was played by Firouza, and also didn't think like a lot. So it seems like Firouza was in his prep. Queen d2, very logical, wants just to bring the castle, and this pawn on d6 is very weak. a6, and now I think Vidit played a very strong move. I like it a lot. He thought like what black wants to do, what is the threat? So the threat is to play b5 and b4. So what Vidit played? a3, very beautiful one. After 16 moves, 16 minutes of thoughts, so a3 was played, b5, bishop e2, bishop b7, castle long. The pawn is under attack. Of course, knight e5 is just a bad move after knight takes b5. Knight e4, there is an option, but a takes b5 is just lost after bishop takes, b takes, bishop b5, and queen b4. It's a checkmate, of course. So knight b5, for example, knight e4, I think just queen d4. And yeah, it seems good. Takes, king e7, queen d7, check, takes, and it seems just winning the game. So he played the move queen b6, and not playing knight e5 like we saw. Queen b6 was played, and Vidit is playing so strong move, g4. Just want to push g5, h4, h5, and this game. It seems like this is the Vidit game, right? Bishop is not developed, rook not developed, there is no castle yet. White is so fast here. Queen takes f2. I must admit that I was shocked in this game. I saw this live, and queen takes f2, Firouza, without developing the bishop on f8, without castling yet. Take this pawn on f2 is a little bit, like a little bit crazy. Sorry to say, but it seems that after e5, like Vidit played, the game is over. For example, knight takes e5 is lost after takes, queen takes f2, and the game is over. D takes also is losing after bishop e3. For example, rook, queen g2, rook dg1, and queen h3, rook g3, and bishop g5 is losing. And also here, after bishop e3, queen h4, just bishop g5 takes, and a threat of checkmate. So white is winning. Firouza played the move knight d7, e takes d6, queen b6, bishop e3, queen d8, rook h f1, very logical by white, just playing with all the board, with all the pieces, like we need to play. Knight c5, queen d4, very strong move, rook c8, and now Vidit is playing with 25 minutes on the clock. He has only 20 moves to play until move 40. He's playing the move queen a7, just wants to take the bishop on b7, bishop c6, take the pawn on a6, rook a8, and Vidit is just not afraid from nothing. Bishop a7, and you know, white is just winning. Bishop takes b5, knight a5, knight b5. There is nothing to worry about. This bishop is totally safe here, and the position is just lost because all the pieces, the black pieces, are not playing at all. The bishop here, the rook here, the king, very not safe in the middle of the board. So white is just winning. G6 was played, takes, bishop h6, king b1, take, castle, knight c7, and knight g4. For example, rook c8. You know, like the game is over after queen e2, for example, and nothing to worry about. A4, a5, a6, and you know the game is just over. Bishop d4, for example, nothing to happen for black. There is no plan to play. So knight g4, take, queen e2. Okay, this is of course a matter of technique here. Queen b7, this one, some moves here, of course, and take on d5, d7, and knight d4. And Firouza resigned the game because knight c6 will come, this rook will fall, and this d7 pawn will promote to a queen. Very, very beautiful game by Vidit. He managed to win after two losses, and it's so important for him, and it's so not easy to handle such a good win against so strong player like Firouza with white pieces. Vidit is coming back to the candidates tournament, and I'm glad for him to see him coming back after two losses in a row, I think. So yeah, it's a good sign by Vidit, and he managed to get our game of the round. Vidit against Firouza 1-0. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. We recap all the games of this round, and I really recommend you and welcome you, all of you. Please subscribe my channel, share to your friends, like the videos, comment, and feel free to ask me everything you want in the next videos. So, thank you very much, my friends, and have a good day. Health for everyone, and goodbye.